Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Project Egg Show. Today, we have the honor of speaking with Matt Sibert, an entrepreneur and consultant in the CBD space. How the heck are you today, Matt?
I'm doing great, Ben. Thanks for having me on. It's a pleasure to be talking with you.
Pleasure's all mine, my friend. Let's jump right in. What is your story?
Wow. So story's a little complicated, but I'll go into it. I grew up in Chicago area. My family, we were pretty much the only white family in the neighborhood, and it was a Rastafarian neighborhood. And so the Rastafarian community took me in like family when I was about 8 years old and exposed me to the ways of cannabis. And they would be smoking these gigantic frontal leaf joints, like literally like 5, 6, 10 inches long or longer than like a foot long. So I saw it when I was a little kid and I was like, what is this? And at the time, Nancy Reagan is saying, say no to drugs and all that. But these Rastafarians are running around all day long with six-pack stomachs playing soccer, and they're like 65 years old and they're brilliant. And I'm like, wait a minute, somebody's lying here. And so I was exposed to the cannabis at an early age and really didn't see anything wrong with it. And but I was going to Catholic school as well, and so with nuns teaching me and everything. So it was like a really dichotomous way of growing up. And there was a lot of gangs in my neighborhood, and I didn't even have a bedroom growing up. So we were really poor, and it was tough. And I started working. I always wanted to be an entrepreneur, and started working when I was 10 years old, and babysitting 3 kids at 10 years old in 1985. And also sweeping the hallways in my building, whatever I could do, even as a 10-year-old. And then at 14, I kind of had a choice to make. It was either run the streets and go wild, or stay in the house and be a schoolboy. And I didn't have a bedroom, so I had no privacy. So I chose to run the streets and go wild at 14. And my parents basically threw their hands up and was like, just do it. We can't control you. Just do whatever you got to do. You're on your own. So they didn't give me any money, nothing. And by the time I was 15, one of my best friends was a crack dealer. My other best friend was a pimp. And at 15, they were 15, 16 years old. So this was serious street business. I didn't sell crack or pimp or any of that. I wasn't into that myself, but it was just the environment that I was in. I was selling cannabis myself, and it was very risky, very dangerous. Like in my neighborhood, people will kill you over an ounce of weed. So it was super dangerous. And the Rastas that I grew up with would tell me Jah is protecting me, and that's God. And so I would just, pray, and I'd be on the train in Chicago with like 5 pounds of weed on me, and detectives around the train, and it's really nerve-wracking stuff. Around 19 years old, I got arrested and went to Cook County Jail in Chicago, which is one of the worst jails in the country. And I broke a cop's jaw because I was doing graffiti. I used to be a graffiti artist as well, and I was doing some graffiti, and these 4 guys started running at me, and they didn't identify themselves as police. So the first guy that ran up to me, I turned around and broke his jaw. Second guy opened up his coat. There was a badge hanging there. So I started running, but they caught me, and they broke my collarbone, beat me. My face is pouring blood, and they threw me in jail, didn't give me any hospital treatment. They put me in this dungeon for 2 days, didn't feed me, was threatening to kill me. It was a nightmare. And so that set me on the straight and narrow. It was like 19 years old, no more crime for me. So I got into the recording studio. I was DJing at the time and got more serious about music. And that saved my life, really, the hip hop world, and producing music. And I became one of the biggest hip hop party promoters in Chicago, and was DJing, and was like one of the only white guys at the time doing it. And so I got a lot of gigs. It was kind of like a gimmick, oh, look at the white guy, he could DJ. So that was rewarding, and I got out of the crime stuff, and really started to think more positive. And I linked up with a couple guys, and we got a little recording studio going. And then one day some guys kicked our door in. It was in my old neighborhood. And I told my partners we shouldn't set up the studio in my old neighborhood, but they didn't listen. So some 4 guys kicked the door in with 9 millimeters, and they were saying, "Give us the drugs." They thought we were a drug house because there was so much traffic coming in and out of our studio. And so they put us on the ground and, laid down on the ground and was threatening our lives and for the drugs that we didn't have. And so it was terrifying. And they pistol whipped us. We were all bloody and stuff. And they put us in the tub, 4 of us, and they said they were going to kill us. And thank God I'm still here. And but yeah, that was a big lesson. And we had to decide, are we going to do this or not? And so we regrouped and we opened another recording studio, and then we put out our first record. We sold 50,000 copies independently, which is pretty darn good. And so we were making a lot of money. It was going great. And then the downloading happened. Like Kazaa and Napster came, and nobody wanted to buy our records anymore. They were just downloading them for free. Why buy it when you could steal it for free? And so it was a challenge, and didn't learn how to adapt. And nobody did at the time. Nobody knew what to do in the music business. And so especially small labels like us, we got crushed. And around 2014, my best friend got murdered, and my dad died from cancer. I became my dad's nurse for a year and kind of put my music career on hold. And he lost 100 pounds. And I got him smoking cannabis, and he gained 100 pounds back. And the nurses were like, "This is a miracle." And unfortunately, I did not know about Rick Simpson oil at the time, which is highly concentrated cannabis oil, and I'll talk about that later. So I lost my dad and was devastated, of course. And then my best friend got murdered, and it just was like, oh my God, what am I going to do? And I was reading Tim Ferriss's book at the time, The 4-Hour Workweek. And I decided to take a mini retirement, and I moved to Seattle and opened a record store with a guy that I met out there. And it was just a laid back thing, I loved records. So it was like a retirement. We're sitting outside smoking joints all day, just having a good time selling records. And so it was a relief in a way. And so I did that for a couple of years. Then I came back to Chicago and landed at a company called Nightingale Conant. Are you familiar with Nightingale Conant, Ben? Nice. So yeah, I worked at Nightingale, and it really changed my life. Their motto is "You become what you think about." And so I stopped thinking so negative and cynical and started reprogramming my subconscious, learning how to meditate. It totally turned my life around. I lost 60 pounds in 6 months. I tripled my income in less than a year. They promoted me up the ladder at Nightingale. It was just like I was on fire. I saw The Secret, that everybody watched back then, and I really took to it. And like I was starting to show it to all my friends and family, but they didn't want to hear it, so I had to realize, okay, I gotta just let people come to me if they want to learn this information. But I was so inspired and on fire. I wanted everybody to know about it. And but so I started really going within, working on myself, and it was a life changer, really impactful. And I started coaching other people and teaching them what I learned, and it was just so rewarding. And I started a consulting company, and so yeah, it was going good. And then I met a lady and moved to Washington, D.C. And everybody gets a chance in their life to sell out, I think. And I got offered a job, a really high paying job at the National Association of Manufacturers. And what they stand for, I don't agree with personally. So it was a choice that I had to make. Do I want to get this huge salary, or I didn't have a job offer. I moved to DC, no job. I just met the beautiful lady, and her parents are looking at me like, what are you going to do? And so I get offered this amazing job, but I don't agree with what they stand for. And I took the job, but I was throwing up before work. I lasted 2 weeks, got the first check, and just quit. And I got a job at a branding company making $30,000, which was way less than the other job. And But I learned all about branding and positioning and archetypes, and it really helps me now in my career that I'm in now in the cannabis world. So everything happens for a reason, and so I was happy that that did happen. And but at the time, I still wanted to get to California because I saw this documentary in 2009 by Rick Simpson called "Run from the Cure," and it's all about how it's all about Rick Simpson oil, and it's a highly concentrated cannabis oil. And that oil, I'm not going to say it cures cancer because I don't make claims, but I've seen people take that oil, and even in that documentary, Run from the Cure, they'll tell their stories. They start taking the Rick Simpson oil along with maybe a healthier diet and a mindset, and their cancers are going away. And so it's just incredible. And that documentary really inspired me. So then I made it to California in 2012, and I landed at a dispensary that had just opened up. And they made me manager because I had a lot of retail experience and business experience. And so we got that up to 600 patients a day. It was just all day long, like just helping so many people. It was incredible. I got to learn more and more about cannabis. I already knew a significant amount, but really just getting into it more. And so that was really rewarding. And we did not have a license at the time. So we were getting harassed by the health department and code enforcement. And it was just, it's a cowboy industry at the time. There was no licensing. And so we opened 4 more dispensaries without licenses, and got sued a few times. But we just believe in it so much that we were willing to get sued and just do whatever it took. And because they weren't giving licenses out. So we're like, if you're not going to give them out, then we're going to open up anyway. And so we did that. And eventually the city of San Diego ended up giving out licenses. And so we got one of the first licenses in San Diego. And it was attached to a pain management center. And the doctor that runs the pain management clinic, he didn't like pills, actually, which is odd, but he didn't. So he was sending his patients all day to us to get them on cannabis, get them off of pills. And it was so rewarding, Ben. Like we were helping about 300 patients a day at that store, and it was only 300 square feet, like the size of a closet, basically. But yeah, people would come in with just terrible illnesses, chronic pain, Crohn's disease, cancers, autoimmune, and they would come in, after a month or a few weeks of working with us, crying, hugging us, and just so rewarding. And my fiance was working with me there at the time as well, and she had never touched cannabis in her life. She was in the military, in the Air Force, and she became a federal police officer after the Air Force. So she was a federal cop. And then she got her doctorate degree and became a college professor. And when she met me, I was like, she seemed burned out on teaching. And I was like, do you want to run a illegal dispensary with me out of a back alley? And she was like, yeah, that sounds crazy. I'll try it out. And she loved it. She ended up loving it. And she saw all the people we were helping. And eventually she tried cannabis herself, and it's changed her life as well. And she's been able to reconcile some things from her past that she needed to work on. And so it's really a spiritual thing as well as a healing, medicinally healing thing. And so it was great. I'm working with my lady, we're working like 13 hours a day, though, starting to get a little burned out. And so we went to the guys who put the money up for the dispensary and asked them for a piece of ownership, and they turned us down. And even though we were doing all the work, we set the whole place up. And so they were giving us profit sharing, but I wanted ownership. And, so we decided to leave that dispensary. And at the time, CBD was getting really hot. So we talked to a friend of ours who was a very successful entrepreneur, and he put up some money, and he said, go figure it out. He gave us a bunch of money and said, go run with it. And so at the beginning, I had to learn internet marketing. It was so hard. Like just the first 6 months was confusion and hiring people that didn't come through. Like a lot of internet marketers are completely full of it. They promise you the moon, but they don't come through. And so eventually we were able to start figuring things out, and we launched our own brand, Hemplogica, in September 2017. And within 6 months of launching that company, we had three public companies offer to buy us out. And me and my wife were doing all the work. It was like, oh my God, one of the offers was great too. We're like, we're finally rescued, because they were like, we're going to give you a sales team, a marketing team. You're not going to have to do all the work yourself anymore. You're going to have support. They gave us great salary offers, stocks, everything. But my partner, the one that put the money up, he did not like the offer because he's already worth a lot of money. So for him, he was like, nah, let's just keep going the way we're going. And me and my lady were like, no, we're burned out. So we really bumped heads, and we had to make a decision. Do we keep going with our partner because he's not going to budge, or do we walk away and take a loss in a way, because we weren't going to get the public offering done? So we walked away because life is too short to be in a situation that you don't want to be in. So we walked away, and a lot of people were asking us to consult with us at that time, and that was in around April, May of 2018. We started doing consulting in the CBD space, and we're pretty much the first company that I've seen that focuses on consulting CBD businesses. And, we actually have been there and done that. So we're not just marketers. I'm not knocking the marketers out there, but, we're both marketers and we've done it. So it's just a good thing. And so now we're focused on that, just trying to really bring professionalism to the industry and quality, and help people put out brands where they're not making claims, staying compliant. And so it's really rewarding. We're working on a course right now, and that'll be out in March. And it's about how to launch a successful CBD brand. And we'll be coming out with other courses as well, and masterminds and mansions, and just looking to be some of the experts in the CBD industry. I'm not saying I'm an expert yet, but I'm learning every day, and it's changing fast. This industry moves super fast. And there's a lot of shady people in this industry. And this is coming from a guy from the hood in Chicago. Like, the people I used to deal with in the music business in the hood are way more honest than the people in the CBD business. So you got to really be careful and vet people and be smart. And so that's what we help our clients with, vetting people. And we already have a vast network. So that's basically my story and where I'm at. And, we help our clients in all areas, how to get sales, how to get traffic, branding, pretty much anything they need as a CBD business.
There's, when you're doing an interview as a host, a lot of the times people are very reluctant to share their story, and you really have to yank it out of them. That could have been the most comprehensive story that I have come across yet. So thank you so much for sharing that. That was awesome, man. I really do appreciate it.
And I'll share anything. I'm not even supposed to be here right now. The life that I've lived, man, every day is a blessing. So I'm an open book, man.
So let's talk about when you first opened that record company, or recording studio, rather. I believe you said you got together with some partners, y'all put out this album, and you sold 50,000 copies independently. How did you actually go about pulling that off? And how did you distribute it? How did you make the sales? How did you execute that?
Gotcha. Let me see if I can remember. That was a long time ago. It was like 2001, 2000, or maybe 2002. And I was an alcoholic at the time, another open book thing. So I was drinking like 12 beers a night. But what we did, the best thing, honestly, now that I remember, the best thing that we did, we hired a publicist full time, and it was a lot of money. It was like $3,000 a month at the time. That was a lot for us. We were a startup, but she was incredible, man. She got us, magazines, newspapers. The websites weren't really hitting back then, so it was more print stuff. And we took off because the music was great too. Like my best friend Kenny is an amazing rapper, and he's worked with Mos Def and all kinds of artists like De La Soul, artists all over the world. And so yeah, we hired the publicist, and we had been working in the lab in the studio for years. Like nowadays, it seems like the rappers have been rapping for like 5 months and they'll put out their record, but we stayed in the lab and made sure it was good and tight and professional. And a lot of people would say, "Man, we can't believe this is your first album," because it really wasn't. We had already done albums, we just didn't put them out because we didn't think they were good enough. And so we really spent a lot of time honing our craft. And then we did. We signed with a small label, but he had a pressing and distribution deal with a larger thing. And so that's how we got the distribution out there. And then we were also getting licensing deals in Europe, so in Japan as well. So we would license those territories, which was great because they would just send us like one fat lump check. And so we needed stuff like that at the time. And but unfortunately, everybody wanted to have fun. Like nobody wanted to do the business. Like everybody wanted to be the rapper or the producer, including me. I only wanted to produce music and bang on the beat machines and sample and all that. I didn't want to do the business stuff. And so we suffered because of that, you know, and we didn't network. We were so insular. We were like, we got our own team. We don't need anybody. But it was just a young and dumb attitude because I was in my early 20s. But yeah, it was great though, great experience. And so yeah, we put out a few more records after that, but it was just getting harder and harder. And we were bumping heads. It was getting really bad, like with the partners, and friendships were getting torn apart over money. And it was unfortunate, but we're all friends now. And but yeah, it was fun, but it was tough. And that's when I left. When it stopped being fun, that's when I moved to Seattle. I was like, this isn't even fun anymore.
You mentioned how at a very early age, I believe you said about 10, you started working. You started babysitting and doing things here and there to start making money. What do you think was the source of that entrepreneurial spirit? Like, where did that really come from?
I feel like I was just born like that. I had this innate curiosity. Like I've always been a reader and just always asking questions and wanting to learn things. And yeah, and then the babysitting when I was 10, it was in like we had a big apartment building we lived in, and it was on the first floor, and my parents lived on the third floor. So if anything happened, I could call them, and so it wasn't like I was that, but it was three kids though, and I was only 10. I was babysitting three kids. It's like maybe 11. I might have been 11, but still, like nobody would do that anymore. This is like the 80s was a different time, and in the early 80s, like my neighborhood was great. Everybody looked out for each other. But then around the mid to late 80s, crack came into the neighborhood and destroyed the whole neighborhood and got really violent. All the white people, the few white people that were there left, except for my family, and that was it. It was scary, man. And you had to watch your back. Like at night, the street lights were dark. It was scary. But so yeah, like I just wanted to get out of there. That was what's motivating me more than anything. Like I did not want to live in that environment for the rest of my life, and I don't anymore. I live in Carlsbad, California, by the beach in a beautiful house, and so yeah. Just took that responsibility for life. I used to say, I'm poor, I'm never going to make it, rich people are evil, just all kinds of negative self-talk. And Nightingale Conant straightened me out, though, and I learned how to, turn that thinking around. But it took me till I was 30 years old to learn all that. So I was a victim, my whole life pretty much, and fighting and just scrapping. Like I've been in probably 200 street fights. I got 6 broken collarbones. I've been stabbed and shot at. So yeah, it's just been a crazy ride. So the entrepreneur thing has just driven me. Like even when I was 8 years old, I used to dream about being in San Diego, and now I'm finally here. So just driven, man.
When you went to Nightingale Conant, and you said you had this mindset transformation and you started realizing all these things. And you also said you were looking for like a way to share it with everybody, right? Well, I mean, I would love to hear let's say you had found that proper platform. What would you have said? Like, how would you have gone about conveying that message to those people who need that same realization that you got?
Yeah, it sounds cliche, but I think anybody is capable of anything. You just have to take responsibility. You can't point the fingers outside of yourself. Everything is within you. And so once I took responsibility and stopped being a victim is when my life changed. And you really don't have to change anything. Everybody is who they are within. They have the magic inside of them. It's just about stripping away all those veils that hold us back, whether it's like anxiety or you don't think you're good enough or whatever it might be. And so it takes work though. Like it didn't happen overnight. Like it took me 3 months every day to learn how to meditate, like without my thoughts racing and without just not being able to get focused. And so I see a lot of people saying, well, I tried that, it didn't work for me, but they only maybe tried a few times or whatever. And so you have to put in the self work and put yourself first and before anybody. And especially women need to do that because society tells women that they have to serve everybody first before them. And especially if they have children and a family. And I don't have kids, so it's easy for me to say, put yourself first. But like, I just hope that women that are listening that have kids have carve out time for themselves for self-care and meditation and things that are good for them because life can get hectic. And so that's another thing is just finding that harmony in your life and so that you can balance everything out. But I think one of the most positive things for me has been having a daily morning routine. Like I don't just start working right away. I wake up an hour early and I'll meditate and I write a little bit and read and do some exercise. And then I'll start working and then I'm all charged up for the day and I have my day planned out. So that's one of the most important things I learned from Earl Nightingale. He says, write the 6 most important goals that you have for the next day and read them before you go to bed at night and number them from 1 to 6. The number 1 is most important and soak them up in your brain before you go to sleep. And your subconscious is kind of working on the goals while you're sleeping. And then when you wake up, you're just ready to, hit the day and get those goals done. And then say you only hit 3 of the goals, then you take 3 that you didn't hit, carry them over to the next day, put 3 more and order them again. And then if you see that you're not getting a certain thing done, then you know that you have to either outsource it or get it fixed. And it's just simple stuff like that that really makes an impact. And just doing the deep breathing and meditation, all the simple things that we know we should be doing, but people don't necessarily do it.
So you then left Nightingale Conant, and I believe you said at that point you went to Seattle, and then you had
DC.
You went to DC. Sorry about that. And
right. Nightingale, yeah.
And that's when you had that big offer of this massive salary, and you went for a little while, and then it didn't work out, right? And you went with the branding company. Can you talk about what you learned from both making that decision, like what you learned about yourself, and then your experiences and what you learned at the branding company as well? I think those are 2 very potentially valuable experiences that we could extract some really cool information from.
Yeah, the association that hired me as their director of membership. It was like a really great paying job, but I just didn't. It didn't feel right because of what they do, and not to knock them. Everybody has their own things, and I don't knock other people. I don't get into politics and all that personally. But it just didn't sit right with me. And so I had to decide, like, do I want to take this big salary and impress this, my new girlfriend at the time and her family, or do I want to scramble and try to find another job that means something to me? And I think because of the things that have happened in my past, it made me say, well, life is too short. I'm not going to just take the money. And I didn't feel right. So I left that job and then was looking. I would have liked another job that paid that much, that fit with my, what I believed in, but it just didn't work out. And the branding company was great because the owners, Pete and Susan, are great people. We're still friends, and um, their philosophies match mine. We only worked with nonprofit groups and association groups that were doing good things in the world that we believed in. And so we would turn down jobs. Actually, the company the association that I was telling you about tried to hire them before I was working with them, and they turned them down. So it's just like we had clicked with them better, and I got to learn the science behind branding and archetypes, and it's really simple but very powerful for brands to learn their archetype. And there's 12 archetypes. Harley Davidson is a great example. They're a maverick outlaw archetype, and so everything Harley says and does in their advertising is maverick outlaw, and look at how great that brand does. And so the brands that find their archetypes are the ones that win. And in my industry, I would say 95% of the cannabis and CBD brands do not utilize that information because they don't even know about it. So I help them find that brand personality, and then it becomes, that personality, everything they say and do, and it resonates with people that way. It's a psychological thing. It goes back to, Joseph Campbell wrote extensively about it. And, there could be different tribes from across the world that have never even seen each other in these, areas in the jungle or wherever, or rural areas, and they're telling the same stories. It's just embedded in our DNA, these archetypes. And so when you find that personality for your brand and you tell the stories and your copy and your marketing that way, it sinks in with people, and they want to buy your products. And so as long as you stand for something that's honorable and good, then it will resonate with people, I think.
So, if you would, I'd appreciate it if you would humor me for a little bit, and I'm putting you on the spot a little bit, but if you had to say, what archetype do you think this show is? Right, the Project Egg Show. It's all about interviewing incredible entrepreneurs like yourself to help aspiring entrepreneurs and entrepreneurs who've just gotten started build your business, create your dream life so that we can all live in a better world together. So based on that mission, what do you think the archetype of this show is?
Wow, that's a good one. I go through a test usually with my clients. We could do that later, but off the spot, I would say explorer, possibly, or caregiver. And sometimes it's a combination of two archetypes. But definitely, like, I see you as an explorer, but you're not, like, you're exploring people's minds, more than terrain. But yeah, definitely. And we can talk later about that. I'll go through the test with you, and we can find that archetype.
So for the people, and also of course for just because I'm really curious now, like, what are the characteristics of an explorer? Like, what does that actually mean?
So just like adventurous, like what it stands for, like, so somebody that's adventurous, that wants to get around and see things, and whether it's, like I said, inside somebody's brain or just explore the world. And like, for instance, one of my CBD brands that I consult with, they're Explorer brand, and they are very active women. They travel a lot, and so they show that through their brand, and they show other women that you can be and do and go anywhere you want. And so I feel like you do that through your podcast too, in a way, like showing people you can be and do and go anywhere you want as an entrepreneur. And so it's kind of like a exploration in that way.
That's really cool, and thank you again for humoring me here.
Um,
So okay, so when you went to to manage the CBD or the dispensaries, right? I believe you said you went to California, and then you kind of took over as manager of these dispensaries, and I believe you said you got up to about 600 patients a day. How did you grow it that big? Like, what actionable things did you do in order to grow that business?
um,
All pun intended, by the way.
yeah. We had a street team that did really well for us. They were in the music business. This guy DJ Reaper, and he's all over San Diego, really connected, and he's in, they do shows everywhere. So I was in the music business, like I said. So I thought about it. I was like, wow, they're passing out flyers everywhere. Why don't we hire them and get some flyers made up? And so it's old school, but it works. And they had a great team. They would take pictures and show us, where they were passing out the flyers and putting them in stores. And so that was one way. But Instagram was huge too, even though we would get shut down because the rival dispensaries, there was like 18 dispensaries within 2 miles. And so the rival dispensaries would complain to Instagram and get us shut down. And so, yeah, we would build it up to like 10,000. And then one day it'd just be shut down and we'd be like, darn it. So it was really challenging. But Instagram was great. When we would get it built up, we would send out a Instagram blast about a sale, and within like 5-10 minutes, people are coming in because they live in the neighborhood. I just saw your Instagram post. And then text messaging, text marketing, using Twilio software was huge. We had like 20,000 people on our text list, and we would blast out, not every day, but often, like probably every other day or a few times a week, because in the dispensary market and the cannabis market, people don't mind the text marketing. The customers don't mind the text marketing. Like, it's just, I don't know why, but they're cool with it because they want their medicine, I guess, and they want sales. And then our reputation too. I pride myself on customer service, and a lot of times you go into these dispensaries and they act like they're doing you a favor. Like, literally, they'll give you an attitude. Like, you're here to serve me. I'm giving you money. Like, so any customer that would come into our place, we treated them like family. And I trained all the employees. Like, I've got sales training at Nightingale, so I learned from Zig Ziglar and Brian Tracy and all these great sales trainers and the Sandler Sales Institute. So I took what I learned from there and implemented it into the cannabis world. And there were 3 other managers too. It was that busy. So there was 4 of us managing. There was like 12 bud tenders at one time. We had 2 check-in windows, and it was just all day long. It was just great though. And so, yeah, the quality of our product too, we just really networked and found the best growers, and we were growing ourselves as well. We had multiple warehouses. So that, yeah, I've done a lot, man. That's another thing that I didn't even mention. And we ended up getting raided by the DEA and the sheriffs in one of our grows. And they just took our weed and didn't arrest anybody because they took it for themselves. So, yeah, that's what they do out here. So, yeah, it's a crazy business, man. But, yeah, those were some of the things that really took us to the next level. And that dispensary was the #1 medical dispensary in San Diego at the time. So really proud to have been a part of it. And we had a lot of fun too. It wasn't like, it was a lot of hard work, but we had a ball doing it. So it was very rewarding. And I look back fondly on those memories. That was like 2013, 2014.
So when you then went off on your own with your partner, and I believe you said that was also your lady partner as well.
Yeah, my fiance, Dr. B.
Your fiance. Yes, as much respect as I possibly can have. So you and your fiance went and started your own business. What steps did you take? And I know you said you got funding from that other entrepreneur. Once you got the funding, like, what steps did you take to get up and running?
Oh man, it was so hard, Ben. I can't even tell you. Especially because, like I was telling you earlier, the confusion of learning internet marketing. And my old partner did have a page on Facebook that was a CBD page, and it had 100,000 people on it, but it was dormant for a while. So, but I still thought naively, oh man, we got 100,000 people on this page. It's going to be easy to sell products. We're just going to throw our website up and that's it. We're going to make millions. And, and we put the website up and orders were trickling in, like, 1 a day if we're lucky. And I was like, oh no, I got to really figure this out. And so just networking, I think, is my best skill. And I was able to network and find amazing marketers like Joe Lazukin and Wes Jones and Marty Marion. They're just incredible guys, and a bunch of other marketers too that we worked with. So I can't take all the credit. And then we just started throwing a bunch of things at the wall to see what would stick. And it was trade shows for us because my fiance has been doing trade shows forever, since the mid 90s. And I've been doing trade shows and events a long time. So we flourish in that kind of environment. And our first trade show, we got like 25, 30 accounts out of it. And we couldn't sit down for 3 days. The doctors it was a trade show for doctors. They just surrounded our booth, and the other booths were like, nobody was at their booths, and our booth was surrounded. It was like just crazy. And so we knew at that point, guess what? We're going to focus on trade shows. And getting retail accounts. I have a process that I teach my clients, a step-by-step process on how to get retail accounts without cold calling. So that's another thing that was really successful for us. And then on the internet marketing, without the people I just mentioned, I don't know if I would have been able to figure it out. Like our buddy Wes Jones, he helped us set up a Facebook page called Natural Medicine Daily. And we started paying for likes in the beginning to get it going. And then it started to go organic. And after 3 months, we stopped paying for likes. And it just, up part skill and part luck, we posted this video about an alternative cancer treatment, and it went crazy viral. And the page took off. We were getting 9 million views a week at one point. I know, it was crazy. And then, so what we did was we set up messenger bots on the back end of the page to sell our CBD products that way. And we were doing really good with that. So just finding different strategies, as well as setting up bridge pages on Facebook. And a bridge page is like where you can't advertise CBD on Facebook. So you have to get really creative. So, we might do a bridge page about insomnia, for instance, or getting better sleep, and then get those people's emails. And then once you get their emails, you get them into the drip campaign sequence. And so we have a couple drip campaign writers that I work with that are top notch. And I just have people in my network that can help CBD companies like insurance guys, merchant accounts, marketers, sales, anything they need to succeed. And I learned it on my own by doing it with our company. And so, yeah, those are some of the ways that we were able to get sales. And we got up to about 50,000 a month when we got those offers from the public companies. And then everything, happened, and we had to make that decision.
So now that you are a very distinguished CBD consultant in the space, I mean, you've been through a ton, you have a ton of experience, and like it seems like almost all of the things that you've done, you've reached a certain level of success, and which is very impressive. And we've talked a lot about how you've gotten to where you are, but can you really talk about what your biggest focus is right now, and really drill down on what your life looks like right now? And also, don't be afraid to brag a little bit, and really go into detail about
it. Right now, the biggest focus is working smarter and not harder. Like, we're taking on, I have a lot of clients, not that many, because I don't want to take on too many clients to where I can't give them the service that they deserve. But I am working 7 days a week all of a sudden, and I don't want to be doing that. I've always said 6 days is the limit, and just getting the consulting business off the ground and working on our courses at the same time has been forcing me to work 7 days a week. And so once we get our courses done, which our first course is about to be done, I want to get the courses out there and focus more on selling courses and doing masterminds about 2-3 times a year, and then having a big event once a year probably, and not do as much client work, because I put a lot into my clients. Like, yes, we meet an hour to 2 hours a week, but that's not the only time I'm thinking about that. I'm thinking about my clients all throughout the week and what I can do to help them. And so there's a lot of work behind it. And I'm 44 now, and I've been working since 2012, and I came here just nonstop, like grinding. And so I really want to get these courses out there. And luckily, there's a lot of opportunities in selling bulk CBD, like kilos and liters. And there's big public companies that contact me that want to do deals in the bulk, and they're public companies. And so I'm working on some massive deals like that that I would get nice commissions off of, that I can go lay on the beach for a few months. So that's really what I'm focused on, is getting these bulk deals done and getting our courses out there and our masterminds. Because I really do want to take about 2 months off and just meditate every day and eat healthy foods and reset myself. And I suggest any entrepreneur do that if you can. Like, don't grind yourself all the way down. And when you, like right now, I can tell in myself, I know my stress bucket is all the way at its limit. And you have to know yourself and know when you get to that point as an entrepreneur. And like, there's a great entrepreneur named Billy Jean in San Diego. He says, being an entrepreneur is like jumping off a cliff and building the airplane on the way down. And it really feels like that, especially in the cannabis world. Like, it changes every day. And technically, CBD is illegal by the FDA, in the eyes of the FDA. So everybody in the CBD business is illegal. So it's a risky world. And so the stress can build up, and you got to know when to just leave it alone for a bit and recharge. And that's where I'm focused right now.
So I appreciate you sharing all the things that you've been sharing. And the amount of transparency and value that you provided on the interview so far, I mean, I'm very, very grateful. And to everybody who's listening, I would highly encourage you to actually go back and really, listen a few times to this interview and really pick apart the things that Matt's been saying, because there's been a ton of gems and a ton of value, and multiple layers of value that I'm not even sure I got all of. So I highly encourage everybody to go back and actually listen through a couple times. So one of the bedrocks of this show is connection, right? And it's connection between you and I as friends, as guest to host, you and the audience, me and the audience members with each other. And I'm really fascinated by connection, and not just connection, but deep, meaningful human connection, right? So what is your philosophy on establishing and building the most authentic, deep, and meaningful connection with the human being as possible?
That's a good question. I think I've had a gift my whole life. Like, even when I was a kid, people would say, "You make me feel so comfortable." And it's because of my transparency. I've always been like this. And I'm just comfortable with myself. And it makes other people comfortable to be who they are. So that's one thing. And I'm sorry, can you rephrase it? Can you repeat the question? I'm sorry, Ben.
Yeah, what is your philosophy on establishing deep, meaningful, and authentic human connection?
Yeah, so also, so that empathy and like Earl Nightingale from Nightingale Conan was just a huge influence on me. And he says, treat everybody in your life that you come in contact with as the most important person in the world. And he really meant that. Like, it's serious. And if you do that with everybody you meet, you're going to be successful. I can almost guarantee it. And I always think about, when I meet somebody, who can I introduce to them that can help them further their goals along? And I'm a connector. That's, even on my business cards, it says chief connector. So that's the number one thing that I love doing in life is, all right, this is a friend of mine and this is a friend of mine. Let me bring them together and see what they, he needs this person, this lady needs this. Okay, let me connect them, and then they're happy. And so I love doing that. And sometimes I even make money by doing that. So it can be valuable skill as well, because you build up your network, and then people need you for that. Your network is valuable. So it's all about showing people that you really care about them. And I honestly do. Like, all my clients will tell you we're friends now because I honestly care. And And you have to put that in, like, it's not just business. Like, we're all human beings and we all have goals and families and dreams. And so I just do my best to treat people like they're important. And I really do mean it. And, and that's just, it's simple, but I don't think a lot of people do that. I think a lot of people are thinking for them what they can get out of things. And so, yeah, the more, like Zig Ziglar said, if you want something, you give it to somebody else. So if you want to be rich, help other people get rich. Just things like that. If you want to be happy, make other people happy. So I just live by simple things like that.
It seems like the work that you do, and I could be totally wrong, but the feeling that I'm getting is that money is not the most important thing to you. And I think that while money is a portion of wealth, I'm not sure exactly how to define wealth, but I don't think money's the whole thing. And I'm interested to know your definition of wealth.
Yeah, it's definitely not money, although I like money and I do, want to be very wealthy and I'm getting there. I'm on the way. But yeah, it's like, it's not the be all end all. Like, I already feel like I'm a billionaire because of my fiance, Dr. B, and I get to work with her every day and we're supporting each other. And I get to help people every day through what I do. Like, even though now I don't have a dispensary anymore and I'm not running my own CBD company, but I'm helping CBD brands launch out there and do it the right way and create great products. And so just, being that influence and helping people in that way it's really rewarding. And honoring my mom and dad. My mom passed away as well from cancer, and it was terrible. Like, it happened suddenly, and she was gone in 2 months. And so I just, miss her and want to honor my parents. And my sister passed away as well from OxyContin at 39 years old. So it's my mission, to really help people with cannabis and get them off of pills and unnatural things that could harm them. So yeah, that's where I'm at.
What is your biggest fear?
Hmm. Letting people down, probably, and even letting myself down, probably. That's about it. Yeah, I can't think of anything else. I've been through so much, man. It's like, just I think, yeah, the fear is letting myself down because I've been working so hard and I have these goals and I want to give my lady and family a great life and just things that every man probably thinks about as they get into their 40s.
Matt, I truly am grateful for the time that we've gotten to spend together, and I really do appreciate you coming on the interview and sharing everything that you have. I just have two more quick questions for you. Then we'll wrap it on up. The first one is there anything about yourself that you think is an important part of who you are that I did not ask you about today? In other words, what did I miss?
um, hmm. Trying to think here. Nothing that I can think of off the top of my head, other than, like, right now I'm really focused on eating healthy and really thinking about that part of my life. And I encourage other people out there in their 40s to do that as well, and spend and separating time to exercise and do those things as an entrepreneur. It gets really important as you get older. So that's what I would like to let the audience knows. Just really take care of yourself, man, because you could get burned out, and it's important to carve out that time for healthy activities and eating healthy as well, because you'll have more energy and you'll be more focused and get that sleep. So yeah, that's some things that I would like to say to your esteemed audience.
And the final question today is, again, a little bit of a selfish question, so I appreciate you humoring me twice in one interview. Um, but I'm 24, right? I have a couple businesses, and this show is my greatest passion. What question should I be asking you that I just wouldn't think to ask?
Hmm. I can't think of anything. You've asked some great questions, Ben, and but yeah, I think too that I'm happy to see young entrepreneurs like yourself that are, open and reaching out to guys like me that have been around a little bit longer. And I don't feel old. Like I'm 44, but there's old 18-year-olds and there's young 80-year-olds. So it's all in your mind. And but yeah, like I think also maybe yeah, just touching on the other sides, not just the business, but you do seem to touch on that as well. So I think you're doing a great job. I love the show. I've watched a bunch of episodes myself.
Well, thank you so much, Matt. I really do appreciate the time we've been able to share together, and to everybody listening, thank y'all so much for your support and for watching and listening to the show. I love you guys, and you know you're absolutely why I do this. So thank you very much, Matt. You want to wrap us up?
Oh, cool. Yeah. Thanks for having me, Ben. It's been a pleasure to share my story, and I hope it inspires some people out there. You can come from nothing like I did, and you could definitely achieve greatness. There's nothing holding you back except for yourself. I don't care if you're a man or woman, black or white. It's hard, yes, and maybe it is harder for you as a woman or whatever it might be, but it doesn't matter. You just have to take that responsibility and go for it, and don't point the fingers outside of yourself. Just go for it and you can achieve your dreams. And I know it sounds cheesy, but I'm a living example. I mean, I was homeless at one point when I was 16, and alcoholic and sleeping on couches and a bum basically. So if I can do it, anybody can turn their life around. And feel free to reach out to me. I'm on Facebook, or you can find me, Matt Sibert. So I'm always there to help people, especially if you have a family member that has cancer or you have cancer. Reach out to me and we can talk about Rick Simpson oil.
Well, Matt, again, thank you so much, and to everybody else who's listening, um, thank you again. This has been another episode of the Project Egg Show, where we interview entrepreneurs so that you can build your business, create your dream life, so that we can all live in a better world together. Take care now.